They were to be educated, indoctrinated into accepting the idea that only one world government can put an end to recurring wars and tribulations. They were to be at first persuaded and then convinced that men of special ability and brains had the right to rule those less gifted, because the goyim, that's us, folks, masses of the people, don't know what is best for them physically, mentally, and spiritually. Today, 3 such schools are located in Scotland, Germany, Greece, and so forth. So, I think you're probably aware of the extent of recruitment that the government does on college campuses. That doesn't, of course, mean that necessarily applies here in every instance, but I have known of the extensive recruiting efforts by the CIA on college campuses. And the CIA, believe it, no question about it, there's an element of the CIA that's tied into this, and I'll document that as I go along later on. The next point, these are the goals now that are being set forth by the newly organized Illuminati. Influential people trapped into coming under the control of the Illuminati, and students who had been specially educated and trained were to be used as agentur and placed behind the scenes of all governments as experts and specialists, so they could advise the top executives to adopt policies which would, in the long run, serve the secret plans of the one-worlders and bring about the ultimate destruction of the governments and religions they were elected or appointed to serve. This happened in Yalta. You remember Yalta? FDR went over. We gave away the world to them. This has happened time and time again. The next point I find very interesting, and how true it is today. The Illuminati were to obtain control of the press and all other agencies which distribute information to the public. News and information was to be slanted so the goyim would come to believe that a one world government is the only solution to our many and varied problems. True today, isn't it? And again, I'm going to deal with that a little later on in this first 2 hours of the lecture. Going down here, a German author named Zwack put Weissaup's revised vision of the old age conspiracy into book form and named it Ein Original Skripten. My German isn't too good, even though I have a little bit of German in me. In 1784, a copy of this document was sent to the illuminist Weishaupt and delegated to foment the French Revolution. You mean the Illuminati was responsible for the French Revolution? Yes, absolutely. The courier was struck dead by lightning as he rode through Ratisbon on his way from Frankfurt to Paris. What about a little divine intervention there, huh? The police found the subversive documents on his body and turned them over to the proper government authorities. After careful study of the plot, the Bavarian government ordered the police to raid Weissaupt's newly organized lodges of the Grand Orient and the homes of some of the most influential associates, including the castle of Baron Bossen-Sonderdorf. Additional evidence thus obtained convinced the authorities the documents were a genuine copy of a conspiracy by which the Synagogue of Satan had controlled the Illuminati at the top, planned to use wars and revolutions to bring about the establishment of one kind or another of a one-world government, the powers of which they intended to usurp as soon as it was established. In 1785, the Bavarian government outlawed the Illuminati and closed the lodges of the Grand Orient. In 1786, they published the details of the conspiracy. I find that very interesting, and I think that we can now go on to some more specific goals, as mentioned. This appears also in this Pawns in the Game. In 1773, when Meyer Rothschild was only 30 years of age, he invited 12 other wealthy and influential men to meet him in Frankfurt. His purpose was to convince them that if they agreed to pool their resources, they could then finance and control the world revolutionary movement and use it as their manual of action to win ultimate control of the wealth, natural resources, and manpower of the world. After the general introduction to build up an enthusiastic reception for the plot, he was about to unfold, Rothschild turned to a manuscript and proceeded to read a carefully prepared plan of action. The following is what I have, this is the author, what I have been assured is a condensed version of the plot by which the conspirators hope to obtain ultimate undisputed control of the wealth, natural resources, and manpower of the entire world. 1. The speaker started to unfold the plot by saying that because the majority of men are inclined to evil rather than to good, the best results in governing them could be obtained by using violence and terrorism and not by academic discussions. The speaker reasoned that in the beginning, human society had been subject to brutal and blind force, which was afterwards changed to law. He argued that law was force only to disguise. He reasoned it was logical to conclude that by the laws of the nature, right lies in force. Next point. He next asserted that political freedom is an idea and not a fact. He stated that in order to usurp political power, all that was necessary was to preach liberalism so that the electorate, for the sake of an idea, would yield some of their power and prerogatives, which the plotters could then gather together into their own hands. Do we have a little bit of liberalism in this country today? Of course. 3, the speaker asserted that the power of gold had usurped the power of liberal rulers even then, in 1773. He reminded his audience that there had been a time when faith had ruled, but stated that once freedom had been substituted for faith, the people did not know how to use it in moderation. He argued that because of this fact, it was logical to assume that they could use the idea of freedom to bring about class wars. He pointed out that it was immaterial to the success of his plan whether the established governments were destroyed by internal or external forces, because the victor had of necessity to seek the aid of capital, which is entirely in our hands. Number 4, he argued that the use of any and all means to reach their final goal was justified on the grounds that the ruler who governed by the moral code was not a skilled politician because he left himself vulnerable and is in unsuitable position to his throne. He said those who wish to rule must have recourse to cunning and to make-believe, because great national qualities like frankness and honesty are vices in politics. I think that kind of applies to Washington, D.C. right today. Number 5, he asserted our right lies in force. The word right is an abstract thought and proves nothing. I find a new right to attack by the right of the strong and to scatter to the winds all existing forces of order and regulations, to reconstruct all existing institutions, and to become the sovereign lord of all those who left for us the rights to their powers by laying them down voluntarily in their liberalism. 6, he then admonished his listeners with these words: the power of our resources must remain invisible until the very moment when it has gained such strength that no cunning or force can undermine it. He warned them that any deviation from the line of the strategy plan he was making known to them would risk bringing to naught the labors of the century. The powers of our resources must remain invisible. What's going on in America today? Their plot, their plans, their conspiracy remains invisible. Nobody in a position of authority seems to be worried about it. It's only us who are goyams that are concerned about it, right? The mass of the people. We do have an opportunity, fortunately, through the alternate press, to learn about these things, and through lectures such as we have here today. Number 7, he next advocated the use of mob psychology to obtain control of the masses. He reasoned that the might of the mob is blind, senseless, and unreasoning, and ever at the mercy of suggestion from any side. He stated only a despotic ruler can rule the mob efficiently, because without absolute despotism, there can be no existence for civilization, which was carried out not by the masses, but by their guide, whosoever that person might be. He warned the moment the mob seizes freedom in their hands, it quickly turns to anarchy. Number 8, he next advocated that the use of alcohol, liquor, drugs, moral corruption, and all forms of vice be used systematically by their agenteurs to corrupt the morals of the youth in the nation. He recommended that the special agenteurs should be trained as tutors, lackeys, governesses, clerks, and by our women in the places of dissipation frequented by the goyams. He added, in the number of these last, I count also the so-called society ladies who become voluntary followers of the others in corruption and luxury.